Welcome everyone, and in this video I'm going to do analysis of what mixtures are, types of mixtures, their properties, and which type of separation technique can we use to separate given type of mixtures. So to begin, I'm going to start by definition of a mixture. I'm going to start by a definition, and I can define a mixture as a mixture consists of substances, consists of two or more substances consist of two or more substances put together but the individual components forming the mixture forming the mixture still holds their chemical and physical properties. I've even seen in some books saying that a mixture consists of two or more substances put together and not chemically combined. Yeah, that can also be a definition, and I agree with them. But the key thing you have to know is that individual components forming the mixture still holds their chemicals and physical properties. Now, what are types of mixtures do we have? Types of mixtures. We need to know the types of mixtures we have. First one, we have solid mixture. Second one, we have solid liquid mixture, and have liquid mixture, Now, as far as these mixtures are concerned, I'm going to give you varieties of them and different examples and techniques that can be used to separate them. As far as these mixtures are concerned, I'm going to start with the first one, which is now the solid mixture. My system is misbehaving here. My system is misbehaving a little bit. My stylus pen is misbehaving a little bit. I'm sorry for that. So the first one I'm going to start with is solid, solid mixture. Now, under solid mixtures, I want us to discuss the following. What are they? These are mixtures formed by solids, meaning the whole mixture consists of solids. I can have different types of solids. I can have sugar and soil. All of them are solids. I can have flour and iron filings. I can have sand, and sawdust. These are types of solid mixtures. It doesn't necessarily be that they must be two. They can even be more. In a situation whereby I can have salt plus soil plus sawdust. All these are solid mixtures, meaning they are mixtures whose components are made up of solids or solid substances. Now, in a situation whereby I have solid mixtures, there are certain properties of those given solid mixtures that can help me separate them. Now, the first thing I'm supposed to be asking myself, what properties do certain constituents of that mixture hold? For example, I'm having a situation whereby, I'm using this as my example, I'm having a situation whereby I'm having sugar and soil as my solid mixture. So as a student, I can have to come up with a technique, call it technique, sorry, a technique that I can use to help me separate those mixtures. For example, what are the properties of this mixture? The first thing is that sugar dissolves in water. That's the first property. The second property is that soil is insoluble in water. So I have to come up with a technique that will help me separate these two mixtures, because at the end of the day, I need to know how I can have my sugar and the soil in different containers. So there are various techniques that I can come up with. Now, techniques that I can use here, there are several techniques, but I must go with the appropriate one. Techniques that I can use here. The first one is I can use hand picking. The second one, I'm going to list all the solid mixture separation techniques that we have. Then we are going to pick the most appropriate techniques that are there. Hand picking, I can use a magnet. Use of a magnet is also a technique. I can use winnowing is also a technique. Then I can use hand picking, winnowing. Then I can use decantation. No, not really in that. I can use winnowing, hand picking, and decantation. But now I can't use hand picking to pick soil. That's the first thing. If you look at my sugar and soil, there is no use of a magnet. If you look at soil and sugar, I can't use winnowing. So meaning, however much it is a solid-solid mixture, I have to involve another technique to help me separate these two. So the first thing I'm going to say, these all solid-solid mixture separation techniques are null and void, and I can't use them. So the thing I'm going to do, I'm coming back to the properties. Now I'm going to take sugar and soil. Then the first thing I'm going to add water. Then water will dissolve sugar. Then after that, I'll filter, which is a technique called filtration. Come back to it. Now meaning, when I filter, soil will be filtered off, and sugar will be in the solution. Then I can subject this to heating, or a technique called crystallization. Now, that was just by the way. So we can have different types of mixtures. Same way we said, we can have solid-solid mixtures, which has techniques. So to come back here, when do we use hand picking? When do we use hand picking to separate solid-solid mixtures? To use hand picking as a technique to separate solid-solid mixture, we have to know that one of the components of the mixture, one of the components of the mixture must be bigger enough to be picked using hands. And this is a technique that we always see at home whenever our mothers want to, or whenever we want to prepare beans. We have to sort beans and remove those that are eaten by termites, those are have holes or have not developed well. We use hand picking to do that. When do I use a magnet? Use of a magnet. In this technique, we use a magnet if one of the components forming the mixture has magnetic properties. Meaning can be attracted by a magnet. For example, when I'm having soil and iron filings, let me write it very well, and iron filings. So in this scenario, I can use hand picking to separate them. I can use a magnet, to separate them. Next, when do I use winnowing? Winnowing is a technique that is used everywhere in the whole world. I've never seen anywhere we don't apply the technique of winnowing in real life, at home, in industries. Yeah, a lot of people, especially farmers, use winnowing to remove chaffs from seeds. So I can say, can be having maize grains plus chaffs. Now, what property do these ones have? Chaffs are light and can be blown by wind. Maize grains are a little bit heavy. So when thrown in air, chaffs will be blown. These ones will be blown by wind. Chaffs will be blown by wind. It is always a technique that uses the principle of wind. So we use wind to blow off chaffs. It is also a technique that is used in separating solid-solid mixtures. Now the next one and the last one that I did not mention in the examples is sieving. Sieving is also a technique, and we use a sieve. And whenever we are using a sieve, the property of the mixture that enabled us to use a sieve is that some mixtures are very tiny, then others are a little bit larger. So the small ones will pass through the sieve holes, but the larger ones will remain in the sieve. They'll remain in the sieve. So when such happens, we can separate our solid mixtures very well. So these are the examples of techniques that we can use. I brought in the examples of sugar and soil because however much it is a solid and solid mixture, it doesn't apply the concept of hand picking, use of a magnet, sieving, and also winnowing. But you can use a different technique to help us separate them. Thank you. Next time I'll be handling liquid mixtures and their separation techniques.